Brock Heward is going to join us. He talked with Pete Carroll this morning.
2nd and 10. Cousins takes the shotgun snap. Being chased. Gets hit by Martin. The ball comes out. Rolling around. It's picked up by the Seahawks. Coming near side. It's Coleman. 20, 15, 10, 5. He is in. Justin Coleman is in. The Seahawks are blowing it open here in the fourth quarter.
It was quite the game last night at CenturyLink Field. So Brock Heward's going to drop by. Dave Wyman, his usual Tuesday visit. It's a special Tuesday edition of the Monday Monson Quarterback with Brock. But we got you covered on the Seahawks stuff. They're headed to the playoffs. But, of course, we also have you covered on all of the local news, government craziness. Let's get right to the big lead.
The big lead. Top story.
Well, wait a second. What? Where are my glasses? I can't be seeing this correctly. What? Did you hear what they're doing with the city of Seattle?
What's that?
This can't be. We've had one party controlling the city my entire life. The Democrats have been controlled. I can't remember the last time there was a Republican in Seattle city government. I can't remember. It's a one-party city, which means
Ever?
that I can't remember.
Okay, I'm going to do some research.
Please do. But at least for decades and decades and decades, it's a one-party city. And I'm sure that the only reason voters would make Seattle a one-party city is because it's a utopia. It's perfect in every way. If you just elect Democrats Democrats and socialists. Yeah, let me correct that. It's not a one-party city. You got Democrats, you got socialists, and you got communists. So, I guess it's a three-party city, to be exact. But the only way that you would have just one party in control forever is if they've created a utopia. But apparently, based on what I'm reading here, Seattle has come just shy of utopian status because they've just announced the creation of a brand new Office of Employee Ombud. And no, this is one time where bud does not refer to weed. It's actually somebody who's going to oversee all the complaints that are flying around City Hall. Brand new Office of Employee Ombud, and it will support city employees dealing with workplace misconduct, discrimination, and harassment, and to watchdog City Hall's handling of workplace discrimination and harassment. What am I seeing here? You're telling me that Democrats, the party of perfection, that they engage in some workplace naughtiness? That they treat people in less than a stellar way, so much so that they have to create a new Office of Ombud? Let me tell you a little more about this. The new office, according to the Seattle Times, whose director will be appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council. So in other words, it's a way to create 3 more huge paying jobs for buddies and lackeys of the mayor. Like she can give $750,000 to her, multi-decade friend who's a consultant. Hey, you want $720,000? Old pal? Old chum? Do women call each other old pal and old chum? Anyway, that's irrelevant. So the mayor will appoint this person, so you get another big, fat government position. It'll operate independently from the Department of Human Resources. They will investigate allegations of city workplace harassment, discrimination, and misconduct. Now, again, when you have a government that is full of people who are so woke, how can there be widespread harassment, discrimination, and misconduct? I thought the Republicans were the party of harassment, the party of discrimination. But you're telling me that happens in a one-party Democrat socialist city? I find this shocking. Councilmember Teresa Mosqueda said, "Today marks a critical day for the Me Too movement." And you're probably wondering, yeah, Dori, Don't blow this out of proportion. What's this going to cost me, the taxpayer? I'm glad you asked. In Seattle's budget for 2019, the mayor has allocated for a director and 2 strategic advisors, 3 positions. They've allocated $564,000 for the Office of the Employee Ombud, or an average of about $190,000 per person to oversee something that cannot possibly be happening because Democrats don't engage in this kind of behavior. So talk about make work positions. These people, this trio, they're going to be sitting around twiddling their thumbs, just collecting their big fat paycheck with nothing to do because there will be no misconduct to, oh, no, wait a second, apparently there is. A brand new survey that the city conducted on harassment and discrimination uncovered alarming themes, including mistrust of management, fear of retaliation, lack of transparency, and bias in hiring and ageism. Again, I thought it was just Republicans who did all of these things. But no, we find out that in our one-party utopia, the single-party controlled city, that some of these things happen. But thank goodness we have an extra $564,000 laying around so we can create 3 new jobs so that we can now become, after next year, we will become a utopia. We haven't quite made it yet, but we're getting close. And if we just spend a little bit more money, we finally will be the utopia that everybody expected when they've cast their votes for City of Seattle positions. You keep working for perfection, Seattle. You're so close to getting there. Up next in the Big Lead.
The Big Lead. Bizarro World.
So we told you yesterday, speaking of utopia, Jay Inslee is going to clean the planet. So, actually, it's going to do nothing, but shh. We don't want to harsh their vibe. I don't even know if that's a proper use of the phrase. Is that it? Is it harsh? You're young. Harsh their vibe? Harsh their mellow.
I don't know that any of those are correct.
It's Urban Dictionary, yes.
Harsh their vibe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Harshing my
old
vibe.
man.
Okay, let me get back to my rant here. So Jay Inslee told us yesterday that he's going to save the planet. And I don't want to harsh their vibe, but as you know, I've done all the stats, and it'll do nothing for the planet. He says he's going to roll back Washington State emissions to where it was a few years ago, and that somehow will have some impact on the planet, but it'll cost the taxpayers a fortune in the process. Listen to the voicemail. Nicole got a voicemail from a listener named Judy, and it's very, very sweet. And this is why I come in here every single day and I fight so hard for this, ridiculous level of spending and taxation that we have to battle on a daily basis. But how sad is it when people feel this desperate and then they end up calling us and just sharing, their very sad stories?
Yes, my husband and I were in our 70s, and we listen regularly to Dori. I don't have any complaints about his show. He's just great as far as I'm concerned. And this new thing he had on his radio today about Jay Inslee and the taxes he wants to raise for global warming, and he wants to just drain us Washingtonians till we just are all homeless in these little tents that are poor excuses for housing. I just would like to see what ideas he could promote on his program for people like us and others that are just, I call my representative, Mr. Fortunato, and he says, well, just move out of state. I thought, well, gee whiz, thanks a lot. This is my state. I lived here. I grew up here. Holy smokes, what advice that was. And that was through his aide, Mr. Alex something or another. I could join a yellow coat movement, I'm in my 70s, I would join it in a blink of an eye. Hopefully he'll cover this topic in depth because
Yes.
he does a really great job, and he's my favorite radio personality. So, okay, bye-bye.
That's very sweet, Judy. Thank you. But I do think it's very sad when the advice that people are getting from their state rep, because it's getting too expensive to retire here, is move out of state. There are people who have, raised their families here, whose, their kids and their grandkids are here. Maybe they don't want to leave their families, but because of how crazy expensive it's gotten, that's the only advice that our representatives can give us now, is move out of state. So Inslee yesterday is actually getting ridiculed nationally at Daily Caller. They talked about how Jay Inslee says that we will not survive if we don't follow his lead.
This is kind of like Winston Churchill in 1939. They asked him, why are you certain of victory? The Nazis are overrunning Paris, and you're talking about victory. And he said it's pretty simple. There is no other option than victory, because without victory, there is no survival. And that is the situation that we are in today. Now, if that sounds apocalyptic, take a look at the science.
Not only does it sound apocalyptic, but it also sounds a little messianic that you, first of all, Governor, you're no Winston Churchill. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to harsh your vibe here, but you're no Winston Churchill, and the bogus climate change extremism, not there's no climate change, but the extremism is bogus. It's not Nazi Germany. And for you to suggest that let me give you the analogy. So Jay Inslee says that he's Winston Churchill, climate change is Nazi Germany, and so what Jay Inslee's going to do is he's going to reduce carbon emissions globally by spending billions of dollars here in Washington State. He's going to reduce carbon emissions roughly 1/100th of 1%. That does not make you Winston Churchill. That's the equivalent. What you are suggesting is the equivalent of American troops grabbing a Nazi opponent in 1942 and giving him a paper cut. That's essentially what you will do for the planet with your multi-billion-dollar climate proposal here in Washington. I wanted to check out, too, because remember the last time our governor was trying to quote great historic figures? Remember when he tried to quote MLK?
King talked about the long arc of justice.
Right.
It's long, but it bends to justice.
The long arc of justice is long, but it bends to justice. And we checked on it, and that's really not how MLK said it.
Let us realize that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice.
Okay. That was a little bit better said. So I wanted to check out when he started quoting Churchill, because, and again, we will not survive if we don't reduce carbon emissions globally by 1/100th of 1% by spending billions of dollars here in Washington. We will not survive. So let me just compare him to Churchill here.
This is kind of like Winston Churchill in 1939. They asked him, why are you certain of victory? The Nazis are overrunning Paris, and you're talking about victory. And he said it's pretty simple. There is no other option than victory, because without victory, there is no survival. And that is the situation that we are in today.
Okay, let's see. I think that's a little closer to the Churchill than he got to MLK.
You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word: victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terror. Victory, however long and hard the road may be. For without victory, there is no survival.
I would argue that maybe Churchill was a little more stirring, a little more grandiose in how he said it. But at least Inslee came a little bit closer. But Governor, I mean, I know that he has all these advisors who have convinced him that if he wants to be the president of the United States, he has to find one issue that he can just sink his teeth into, that he can sell to the American people. And for some reason, the issue of climate change is what Inslee has decided on, or his advisors have decided on. So he stands up at this news conference and says, if we don't follow his lead, we will not survive. That he is Churchill, climate change is the Nazis. And we have to hurt one of them a little bit in order to survive. It's unbelievable to dive in and to listen to all of this. The thing is, people in our state have bought this for 2 gubernatorial elections now. They've said, yeah, okay, we'll keep going down the same path. And, you look around at the reality of our life here, and sadly, the reality of our life is in our beautiful state, we have trash everywhere. You drive up and down I-5, and you look to either side of the road, and you will see garbage everywhere. In a state where the governor wants to be the greenest governor ever. We've got heroin-addicted vagrants everywhere. We have homelessness and crime. And I'm just not buying that your 2020 presidential campaign pitch is the best for the people of this state. And maybe, Mr. Governor, maybe you should resign as governor and just focus all your full-time energy on running for president. Because we got a lot of problems here that still need solving before you get to your national campaign. That is your big lead for today.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
We'll check the news for you, and then Brock Hewer talked with Pete Carroll this morning about a stirring Seahawk victory. And Brock, the Monday Monson quarterback, makes a special Tuesday appearance next on the Dori Monson Show.
This hour of the Dori Monson Show is brought to you by Insulation Northwest.
New information.